Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Why the Hell Not podcast. We have Ryan Ashagi with us, aka Bleam. How's it going, man?
It's going well. Thank you so much for having me.
We have you here because of an upcoming show on the 29th. We met you through Vigorous Events. Shout out Vigorous Events. But is there any other upcoming shows besides that event that you'd like to talk about first off?
I do not have any upcoming shows at the moment. I have a few house parties coming up, but those are private events, so I'm still always looking to get booked. So, yeah.
Okay, so when it comes to DJing, when did you start DJing?
I started DJing a little bit over a year ago, and I started producing music first just about a year and a half ago. So the DJing kind of came second for me, and I figured that I needed to transition into somewhat of a DJ as well and not just a producer if I was to, make a name for myself, get my name out there and play shows.
That's funny that you said that because just the other day I was talking with a guy and I said most people start with DJing, and I feel like the people who produce first, they kind of make it quicker. They also just seem to um, be an overall better artist in terms of the performance of the live show. I just see that people are more successful, and that just might be a coincidence, but that's interesting because I feel like the majority of people start off DJing.
I think so. Why do you say that, though? Why do you say that
They're
people more become, successful by producing first?
Well, this just might be my personal experience, but I just know people that have DJ'd and they kind of never. It took them a while to get, excuse me, into production and just kind of got stuck in DJing small events, DJing bars. They didn't realize that they're not going to break the threshold without
Right.
production, without their own tracks.
Right.
And I feel that people who get into production first, they're more about making music, getting it out there and being original. I know so many DJs who have been DJing for 5 years, and all they do is mashups, and they just play in the
Yeah.
same clubs over and over again. And I feel that, are you an introvert? Are you a homebody? Do you stay at home a lot?
I definitely get some of my, or actually a lot of my energy from being by myself. I guess I'm a little bit of both. I do enjoy playing shows, but I tend to get drained pretty quickly, and I like to have my own creative space at home when I'm producing by myself or with like a couple friends. And I do agree with you in that statement you made. At least for me personally, like the artistic component of producing just like allows you to be creative from the get-go versus DJing. It's like you're using other people's music to make a name for yourself, whereas producing first, it's like you're already integrating your own tracks and very artistic styles, variations from the get-go. So if you can learn, I guess, how to integrate both of those things, then you're in good shape. So that's kind of the route that I've found to be the best way, and I'm just trying to ride that.
Yeah, I guess another thing about that is DJs who DJ first, they hit a threshold and then they realize that they need to start making their own tracks to get to
Yeah,
that next level.
it always happens.
And producers from the start, they want to create, they want to make original stuff. Even if it fits a mold that's popular, they still want to get their own stuff out there, which catches people's attention. It's hard to get a fan base if you don't have original music. Like,
100%.
oh, that guy beat matched my two favorite songs.
Right,
Like,
right.
how far is that really going to get you?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's really cool. You said you've been producing for a year and a half. Have you
Just about.
submitted to labels? Have you signed anything?
I have submitted to labels. I've got some interest from a couple of really, really small ones. I have not signed any tracks, but I am working on a ton. I have two releasing later this year. I think both are going to be independent releases, and a couple of the medium-sized labels who expressed interest, but not for the tracks that I submitted, wanted to hear how those two songs performed before, I guess, talking more about upcoming tracks, which I respect. That's how the industry goes. But yeah, I'm not at the moment. I'm not signed to a label.
So if you could pick any label to get a track signed to, what label would it be and why?
Oh man, I think I'd pick Confession, Chami's label,
Mm.
just because I think they treat their artist well, and I think like they support each other in what they do, and they just seem to be like honestly cool people who just really love the musical component. You don't see them like I guess clout chasing super often with like these crazy collabs and stuff. They just really are into their own like genre of house music, bass house, G house, and I like that. And some of them are really big artists, and some of them are small, like Koos I just discovered recently, who signed to their label, and he makes killer mixes, killer tracks. His arrangements are always freaking dope, and I just like that they respect the younger artists who are starting off independent, and they're good and they're not as big, and they'll sign them too. But they also have huge heads, like Chami, Mala, and others as well.
So how did you get into EDM?
I got into, you mean listening or like production or
From
just
the start,
anything?
how'd you get interested in EDM, listening, just from the beginning?
Sure. I think my interest in EDM started when I was in high school. I'd say about like sophomore to junior year of high school. And
How old are you?
I am 20. I'm turning 21 next month.
You're
Yeah.
younger than I expected. You look a lot older.
How old do I look?
24, 25.
20. I get that. It's like when I grow this beard out, people say,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, around the 25 age. Yeah, so when I was in high school, I would go down Pacific Coast Highway a lot with my friends, and we'd always be listening to EDM remixes on SoundCloud, just literally by any artist. A lot of them were Illenium, like Illenium's remixes of Chainsmokers and Oh Wonder, Bring Back Memories for me. A lot of just really hard hitting classical melodic future bass type of EDM was, I guess, the genre of music that got me into it. And it was just a time of like us like not having too much responsibility, so we were just like clicking through tracks on SoundCloud and like finding these random remixes that had only like a few thousand plays, but were so good to us as like young kids, that we just like saved them and start sharing playlists and stuff. And it was mainly SoundCloud that EDM really took off for me. Like in high school, I didn't even like view EDM to be like a part of like a larger industry, like apart from like the SoundCloud remix, scene. So yeah, just basically SoundCloud being in high school, people just sending random remixes to each other, and like little YouTube videos as well. And then I kind of transition into more listening into house music, all different types of house, drum and bass as well, techno. I guess like as I've got older, I've like left kind of the melodic like future bass scene in terms of like producing more, also listening music and producing music, but I still like listen to it from time to time. But in terms of starting, that's how I got into listening.
Well, being only a year and a half in, you're very early or young into the scene. You might go through a lot of changes. Do you feel like you've moved fast for being in a year and a half? Do you feel like, are you proud of where you are, or do you feel like you're not moving fast enough?
I think I'm proud of where I am. Just because the reason I say that is because I try to do a lot of like at home experimentation with like the tracks that I'm working on. Even if it's just like an acapella that already exists, I'll take it and like I'll try to spin it, and I'll know like I'll never release it, but it's just kind of like my practice. And I think that the tracks I'm working on for my upcoming EP that's releasing later next year are a really diverse blend of a few different EDM genres, but it's weird because it all kind of like plays in like the same theme of my EP, which is, it's called New Age, the name of the EP, and it's gonna like, the name almost kind of speaks for itself. So I'm trying to mix a lot of like classic like pop vocals, but mixed with like techno style tracks, and then I have some purely like deep and I guess bass house mixed together as well. And it's kind of all in this umbrella of like a new age of like music where you can just kind of like bounce around genres and people are still vibing it the whole way through. So I'm proud in terms of like my development like as an artist for myself. But obviously not that many people have heard my music, so which is fine. I mean, it takes time to get good at your craft. So I'm just kind of moving through the waves and slowly but surely getting there.
Let's talk about production.
Sure.
What DAW do you use, and how do you start a song? What's kind of your process? Do you start with the drums, or do you get a melody going, some chords? Tell us about how you start a song.
Great question. I personally asked myself or other producers this question when I link up with them as well, just to get an idea of their workflow. I use Logic as my primary DAW, and I do some audio warping in Ableton. So sometimes like I'll pull little audio clips into Ableton, mess around with it, and then I'll bounce them out and bring it back into Logic and process them, mix them there. To start a track, almost always I use voice memos on my iPhone. Sometimes I'll be like literally at school or like in my car, and something would pop into my head, or like I'm thinking about an idea, or I'm talking to a friend and we just we start bouncing off ideas, and I'll just take out my phone and hit the record button, and it'll be going for like 5-6 minutes, and I'll just be humming, and I'll literally be banging the table or banging my steering wheel, trying to get like a quick little drum pattern going, mixed with like my attempt
Baseline.
yeah, my attempt at like side chaining my own voice, with my own vocals, into the iPhone voice memo. So after like we have a few good takes, a few like good minutes of bouncing that, and we have like a general idea of what the baseline melody is gonna be, then I kind of start focusing on, okay, like what are the elements to this track? Like, are we gonna have lyrics? Like, how are the drums actually going to be made? Are we gonna create everything from scratch? Are we gonna pull something from like a pack? I mean, which a lot of producers do. I mean, it's pretty much standard that you use samples. But yeah, it all for me starts with the voice memos, and then I definitely start layering the drums first from the get go, and then I try to lay down just some random like piano melody just to get the melody, and then I'll mess with the instruments from there. But it's basically drums and then piano after that.
I'm surprised that you said that. I personally have never done voice memos. I've always wanted to, because I'll get a track in my head and I'll forget about it. I'll tell myself, oh, I'm going to remember that, and then it's just gone. That's like, I feel like that's not an EDM thing, and that's awesome that you do that, because that's really how you get good creative work. You're not going to sit in front of a computer and be like, I'm going to make this song,
Right. Thank
stare
you.
at a blank screen for a while, or create something that's not as good as it could be. You're actually using that music god
Right.
that's channeling through you, and you're putting it to pen on paper, so to say, before you get to the studio. So
Yeah.
that's
One more thing I want to add, and that's a great point. I really believe that like, even though you could be a horrible singer or lyricist or whatever, using raw like voice things like voice memo, or just like something to get the intention down in the first place, you can like express emotion with that too. It's not something like you can express. You can't just sit down at a computer and start expressing emotion right away. But if I'm like trying to sing on one of my own tracks, which I don't really do, but if I'm just trying to get the idea out, I'll try to really put emphasis in certain tones and like pitches, and try to hit notes in like different ways that I'd imagine it to be on the track, just so I get an idea of how hard it's gonna bang or not bang when I start working on the production. So that's kind of like also, I guess, how it helps me, using the voice memos and then like translating that later.
that is really cool. If you could choose one producer to collaborate with right now, who would it be and why?
I would choose Jonas Aidan, just because I watch a lot of his YouTube videos on production, and he is a very, very transparent producer, and he knows just a lot about production. And I mean, I love his tracks. His tracks are all really, really good. Synthesis is super good, and he is just like a great thing, I guess, for like the EDM community now, especially with YouTube and how popular it's gotten. I mean, he literally just uploads like ways that he makes his tracks, and people are just commenting like, oh, how did you do this on his videos, and he'll explain like step by step how he did it. A lot of producers, I guess, now I don't want to say secretive, but more laid back on like the production process, or like, they use ghost producers, and like, I mean, it's all very common in the industry, but I just love how transparent Jonas is, and his tracks just sound really dope, and he has a good blend, of house and melodic stuff too. So yeah, he's definitely on my top. Well, who's yours? I want to hear about you.
Uh, if I could produce with one person, it would probably be Dead Mouse, but we don't have similar styles, but I think that the collaboration would be amazing, and I also just am a fanboy of him. I love his
Yeah.
old stuff. I think it would be amazing to have a track with him. I think he really brought EDM into the mainstream for a lot of people. Um, yeah, he would never want to collab with me, but I think he is he's kind of a genius
Yeah,
in house music,
he is.
in old electro. So
Just music in general. I mean, he knows.
yeah.
I'd say Skrillex is up there too for me.
hmm
Yeah, that's like another
So
person.
you've only been listening for a year and a half, correct?
Listening? No, producing.
Oh, okay. How
Yeah.
you said sophomore year of high school.
Yeah, for electronic genre.
So
Hardcore, yeah.
for Skrillex, what was one of the first songs? Did you go to his OG stuff, or did you kind of go to his new stuff?
Okay, so like I guess I'm like any other person who first heard about Skrillex through Bangarang. And yeah, that was the song I guess that got me into him, and I absolutely love his new music. I think he just is a killer, in Ableton, and he's just a monster. I mean, like he just takes these samples from like random places, and then you find out, oh, like they're from this, and then like his own, and then he adds his own like synthesis to the music, and it's just like an extremely good balanced blend of like drums. Like Skrillex's drums on all his tracks are solid. Like they're just amazing drums. They always go hard. I mean, like Skrillex's tracks always bang in the club, and I like kind of I don't know if I would say it's like a transition, but I like the direction that he's going in by kind of blending those harder hitting like lasery and like house sounds into his sampling methods. I think that's cool, and I guess always looked up to him like as a producer.
Yeah, that man can go anywhere and make anything. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
for real.
Have you been to a music festival before?
I have.
What was your first one, and then what was your favorite?
My first music festival. I think it was Coachella 2 years ago. And I've been to a lot. I mean, since then I've been to a lot of the LED events. I've been to like Hard Summer, Nocturnal. Have not been to EDC yet. Honestly, my favorite has been Hard Summer to this day. I don't know why. I almost kind of like the dust like in your face, just because like it just, I don't know.
Coachella has plenty of that
It
too.
does. I enjoyed Coachella. I just got super tired, and like it was just so big of an event, from like it was almost too big a little bit. But it was still a great time. Went with my friends. How about yourself?
My first festival was Identity Festival 2011. I used my friend's high school ID because it was a 16 plus rave back when
Okay.
those things existed. I was only 14. And it was amazing. Saw Datsik, Dr. P, back when they were in their prime.
Yeah.
You said you've never been to EDC. I have one tip for you about EDC is just prepare to never be able to sleep, because
God.
it's going to be like a 3-hour shuttle ride, taxi, whatever you
Yeah.
want to get there and back. I mean, you'll get home or get to your hotel wherever you are at like 10 a.m. Sun's out blaring. It's 100 degrees.
How many times have you been?
I went just once. It was 2015. It was for my high school graduation. I went with buddies.
Oh, cool.
It was a blast. Like, it's next level. The stages, the amount
I've
of
heard.
people, the cars, the mobile stages going around. Everything about it is amazing. It's an experience that I feel like everyone should have, but at the same time, I'm not killing myself to go every year.
Yeah.
People are different. Some people want to go every year, but I just found that I was able to see the artists that I wanted to see and have just as much fun closer and not as demanding. It's one of the more demanding festivals on your body.
Have you been to Burning Man?
I've not. I was invited
I would
this
say
year,
that's
but
demanding. I
yes,
haven't been
it's
though.
that is awesome. I love burner festivals. They're a lot different than kind of the Insomniac festivals.
100%.
I mean, you pull up, you stake your campground whatever size you want. They don't give you a tiny little lot.
Yeah.
That there's no rules. It's pure freedom. I mean, you don't get the giant stage LED wall production of Insomniac, but you get a more personal experience. And I mean, the stages that they make at those places are so cool because they're trying to be unique. They're hand built. Um, there's just something about going to burner type festivals like Lightning in a Bottle, Burning
I
Man.
really want to go to Lightning. Oh,
It's
on my list.
fucking
Yeah.
pretty damn cool.
Yeah, my friends are telling me about it.
But I like you know, kind of the more mainstream festivals too. I like them all. I just love listening to music. I love being in a music festival. You feel so free. There's no judgment.
Yep.
You can dance as hard as you want. You can act like a fool. Even the event staff, you know, they just want to check on you, make sure you're all right. You could be throwing up in the middle of main stage, and they'll just kind of tap you on the shoulder
Yeah.
and see if you're okay.
Are you okay? Yeah.
Yeah. So
I've seen it a lot.
yeah, there's a beauty in that with music festivals. It's a different experience than say a rap festival where, you know, the guy to the left of you's getting pissed because you're kind of dancing too close to his girlfriend, or whatever it may be. It's just it's a totally different environment. It's more accepting. And do you listen to rap or hip hop?
I do. I'm a huge Kanye fan.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on rap artists being booked at major festivals?
Like rap festivals or just festivals
No,
in
no,
general?
no. Not rap festivals. Like I remember back in 2016, French Montana played at Nocturnal.
Oh, okay.
So rap artists being booked at EDM events. What's your opinion on that?
It's like, okay, so I think in cases where the rap artist definitely has like a style that they've made in the past that can definitely rock with an EDM style crowd. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's like, you know, makes it more diverse. Like I saw Rick Ross, I think at Hard Summer, I think 1 or 2 years ago, and it was cool. Like, you know, he was playing Purple Lamborghini and like everyone was rocking out to that. So it was like, you know, that was a collab song, and like he was a rap artist, but like he also made like a more, you know, trap style track, and that was dope. I don't know as much about like integrating just pure rap with, you know, an EDM style festival. I know Juice World was at Hard Summer, and I don't know, I didn't hear good things about that. Not necessarily about Juice World, just about like the vibes in general.
I mean, the majority of rappers just don't sound the same live. My opinion on it is that there's plenty of rap artists out there that specifically rap to EDM beats, like jump up drum and bass.
True.
To trap. I mean, there's a bunch of them out there. A lot of them live in the UK or not in America, but there's plenty in America, and I think that would be a better fusion because you'll see a rift in the crowd, you know, people walking away.
Yeah.
Maybe it's empty, and it can be a mood killer. A lot of people are on specific drugs that don't maybe not fit with the vibe of rap music. But yeah, I love rap music. That's one of the reasons why I love Coachella and Hard Summers.
I actually listen to more. Yeah, I listen to more hip hop and rap, I guess, than I would say EDM. But when I try to get in that creative mode, like I'll have a precursor session of just listening to like, you know, chill house music.
I do the same thing
to get in like that mood. You know,
I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should say this on air, but I rarely listen to new EDM unless I hear it from someone and it catches my eye.
Mm-hmm.
I love when it. I mean, the most times that I listen to music is either when I'm driving or if I'm doing a task where I don't need to be as focused.
Right.
And I'll either listen to hip hop or podcasts. I kind of listen to old school music too. But I think that's good if you're an EDM producer to listen to that stuff because, first of all, you don't fit. You won't make music that exactly sounds like another artist. You can use those 100%. Other genres to influence you and get different ideas. Maybe have a different structure, which other DJs hate. If you play,
Yeah.
if you give them a song, hey, play this at the club, they're like, oh, the arrangement's off. It's like, well,
Right.
no, I wanted it to, have two bars and then go
Yeah.
back into a different drop, like a switch up or something. And they're like, oh, it has to be this.
It's cool that you mentioned that. A couple of tracks that I'm working on, I'm trying to basically put rap like over house music, like actual, I guess more so like contemporarily mixed rap vocals over like, house tracks. And some of those vocals I'm trying to process my own. It's like kind of like half artistic like vision and optimism and also half like a struggle at the same time. But I'm totally about like integrating different genres. I think that's like just a cool way to guess, be original and not kind of stay in the same place.
Absolutely. I've been working on a metal fusion track with EDM. I know Sullivan King does it, but I'm doing it for more house kind of gritty guitar riffs on a house beat. In terms of, do you know about hip house? I mean, I went to Detroit for Movement, and so many rappers are rapping over house beats.
It's a thing. No,
It's
it's
a
becoming
big
a thing.
thing. I
Yeah.
mean, Destructo has a track with YG, and I think it's really really cool. And there's definitely a market there because not enough people do it, but it's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
So
I
if you
will
make a
say
song like
not
that, I'd love
enough
to hear it.
people do it. That
Yeah,
I would agree
absolutely.
with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anyone you would like to shout out right now that has helped you along the way or inspired you? Anyone you would like to say what up to?
Yeah, definitely my manager, Rustine. She's somewhere here. She's been like a great, help from me in terms of like reaching out, to people to get them to hear my music. Because I really like to just focus on the music, and I'm not so much of a person who's like, oh, like, messaging people like listen to this and like trying to, send my music everywhere. So she's been like helping me, get contacts and like pushing me to make my own creative sound. So I'm really grateful for her for that. We actually met in college, which is also really cool. My other friend, his name is Spencer, and his artist name is Kozlo, spelled Kazlo, and he is one of my best friends now, and he's a super talented producer. He just released his EP on Spotify, and he's been just helping me with, my production ever since we met. I think we met like literally a year ago, or like a little bit less than a year ago, and we've just, grown to be really good friends. And he's, it's weird because he doesn't even produce the type of, house and like blends that I'm making. He's more on like the poppy and really melodic and kind of, I guess, I don't want to say the simp EDM, but that kind of like route, and he's helped me a lot. So I'm really grateful for him. And yeah,
Well,
those two people.
I mean, it's really hard to do everything by yourself that you need to do to really kind of be successful in this industry.
Yeah.
It's really important to have people with you wanting you to succeed. And somebody told me a long time ago that you want your manager to want you to be more successful than you want to be successful.
Right. And
they
I
need
feel
to push
that.
harder than
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
So you're really lucky that you found someone that pushes for you, because I know a lot of people with managers that don't push hard for them, and
Right.
that can be very frustrating for the artist, because there's a lot of elements that you need to become successful. I mean, you can make the best tracks in the world, and if no one hears them, no one hears them.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of factors in that. But Bleam, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, this has been the Why the Hell Not podcast, and have a nice night, guys.
Thank you.